Okay. Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Make sure I got everything up and running here. Get my platform set up. We got that. Okay. Looks like we're up and running. And again, greetings, everybody. Hoping you're having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're going to talk about parlay today. And basically what we're talking about in regards to parlay and what it means, we're going to start out with the ancient Mediterranean piracy. So let's take a look at that. And before we get started, I want to remind everybody to hit the share, like, and subscribe buttons. There is a PayPal link pinned to the top in case anybody wants to share some love. And of course, if you've got more than one profile, make sure to hit the like on all of them for us. Helps the analytics and the algorithms. Okay, and we're going to say greetings to everybody. We've got Mr. Miyagi, Austin Murphy, Joe Moore, Ramon Marquez, Ohydrus. Anybody else I do not see, but if you're there, welcome. Greetings. Appreciate your support. And let's get into it. Because like I said, that if you remember the Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, there's a scene in there of Captain Teague, the keeper of the code, and he brings out this big code book because they're getting ready to go to war. They gotta get everything straight and get their loot, right? And so they put everything up to a vote. And a parlay is merely a casting of votes, and we're going to find out some information on what these mean, these different terms mean. But in the origins of pirate, as that term is defined in modern times from the 1400s, piracy itself, the act of pirating, piracy, is of a totally different origin. Well, it's got the same origins, just that the terms have changed over time. So piracy in the ancient Mediterranean dates back at least as far as the Bronze Age, which is like 3300 BC to 1300 BC. And the roots of the word piracy come from ancient Greek, meaning attempt something illegal for personal gain. So it's like a theft. This morphed into pirates, meaning brigand. And we're going to take a look at that when we get done reading this stuff. And from that to the Latin pirata, where the modern English word pirate originated. The modern English term pirate came from ancient Greek, which I can't read, but it has the same meaning. Attempt. At temptation. Okay. So we have, according to the classical historian Janus Gabbert, the Eastern Mediterranean has been plagued by piracy since the first dawn of history. The Bronze Age marked the earliest documented wave of piracy. So again, it's just the earliest documented wave of attempts of something illegal for personal gain. It wasn't defined as pirate or piracy back then. And as it is difficult to differentiate piracy from trade during earlier periods, because there's no written documented history of it. So it's hard to differentiate. We don't have the information on it. A number of geographic and economic characteristics of the classical world produced an environment that encouraged piracy. And what we're going to find out here is, like I've said before, according to my interpretation of the scriptures, there are different subsets of society. You have people that are nomads that travel around all over the place. You have people that provide outer communities, and these were originally established along the waterways. And then the larger societies developed inland in central points as societal commercial communities. According to the classicist Henry Ardern Ormerod, the coasts of the Mediterranean are particularly favorable to the development of piracy. The reason is the barren, rocky shoreline was not suitable for large-scale agriculture and could not support a large population. They were still small in those times and bordering along the waterways. They hadn't carried into inland so much. Therefore, most villages were small and of little means. The primary method of support came from fishing, so they stayed near the water. Most men had boats, seafaring skills, and navigational knowledge. When fishing could not reliably sustain them, many people turned to highway robbery and raids of nearby territories to support themselves. However, land trade routes were few and far between, given mountainous obstacles and few rivers. Trade and travel, therefore, were carried out primarily by the sea. Trade and travel were primarily carried out by the sea. You ever feel like you get carried out to sea? In the early days of maritime navigation, most trade vessels traveled along the coast. According to the geographer Ellen Churchill Semple, traffic was restricted to fixed lanes in a way impossible on the ocean. The Knock-Leroy, or ship-owning merchantmen, moved slowly along established trade routes, weighed down by heavy cargo. Fishermen would encounter treasure-laden trade ships passing the shores day after day, and if possessed of the motivation and means, the more economically desperate among them would take on the risk of banditry for a chance at treasure. Semple wrote, "The pirate was the robber of the sea highways, and the highways of the Mediterranean were well-defined and well-traveled, much more so, as they said, than inland. The rocky coast had been unsuitable for agricultural, was well-suited to piracy." See, the agricultural communities had to go inland for those agricultural commodities, okay? So that's where they were produced, and the roads in and out were minimal. Outfitted with hidden inlets that allowed quick access points to trade routes. According to writer Cindy Valor, pirate enclaves grew up along rocky shores that provided shelter and kept them hidden from view until it was too late for the victims to escape. Because of early maritime raiders' roots in land raiding, they were known to attack ships and coastal towns and to venture further inland. This caused even the earliest large cities to relocate from 2 to 10 miles away from the shore. So now they extended inland. Pirates tended not to, this is showing again that the main routes for travel and trade were the seaways, the oceans, and the waterways, inland. And most people stayed along those waterways. This relocation gave safety to major cities such as Athens, Turin, Mycenae, and others. It protected them from the sea's dangers, although it also cut them off from its benefits. Pay attention here. The sea was still the primary area of major commerce. This caused twin cities to be built, one inland city paired with a coastal port, such as Rome and Ostia, Athens and Piraeus, and so on. To protect their connection, they built long walls that enclosed their thoroughfares. Ormerod wrote that if it is understood that piracy was for centuries a normal feature of Mediterranean life, it would be realized how great its influence has been on the life of the ancient world and modern times. Because it was so prolific, it developed offensive tactics for protective measures. It provided for mandatory military protection by the very people themselves, even if they were godly creatures. It's an absolute must. In order to know peace, you must be able to stand at war. Despite these efforts, they could not completely remove contact between the pirates and the ports. Since they could not effectively disrupt the piracy, it further grew. Men often joined the pirate ships that attacked their own towns. Men often joined the pirate ships that attacked their own towns. This is still going on today. And it's still further growing today. It's just being changed in the terms. Inland piracy today is privateering and is committed through contracts known as peonage and personage. Even the sailors on merchant ships attacked by pirates turned to piracy when they were out of work. Piracy offered a lucrative career, a chance for those who were interested to try to change their lives and better their livelihood 100-fold in a short time. For example, the area around Crete with its slave markets was known as the Golden Sea because of the profitability of the slave trade. So if you go pirate a ship full of slaves, now you got a bunch of slaves you can sell, and they brought high dollar. Crete was also notable for its pirates. If a city had a successful slave market, it was most likely a pirate port. It's the slavery of persons today. 14th Amendment freed the black man, but it made every man a slave. Through a port, and it's a pirating port. Notorious pirate havens like Cilicia and Delos had thriving slave markets. This was the original term for pirates. This is where it derived from. According to the written record, again, before there was a written record, they don't have any idea whether there was how to differentiate piracy from trade. According to the ancient geographer Strabo, as many as 10,000 slaves were sold in Delos in one day. Being kidnapped by pirates and sold into slavery was so common that it was a theme of ancient Greek dramatists. The Mask. So let's check it out real quick. I want to remind everybody to hit the share, like, and subscribe button. There is a PayPal pinned up at the top if anybody wants to share some love. And the PayPal or the StreamYard link is pinned below or set below. Let me check. Yeah, you should still be able to see it. And let me read the comments here. Shalom, Akiam wal Akwatham. Sorry if I mispronounced that. You can use as many sock accounts as you want, guys. Put the thumbs up and subscribe. That way you get notices in case any of the channels get struck. Greetings. Hello. Canals. Yep. Canals. Sea anals. Sea anals. The merchant ships of Tarsus. Yep. Good morning, Mimi, Mr. Miyagi, Joe Moore, Lightside. Good morning. Okay, so hit that StreamYard link if you want to come up and join the panel. And let's get on to the next one now. Now we're going to get into the etymology of some of the words. And like I said, the first one we're going to go to is brigand, as it's mentioned up here. Brigand, from the Greek origins of piraomai, meaning attempt, brigand. So let's take a look at brigand. Brigand in its etymology: lightly armed, irregular foot soldier. Like I said, it's a military at this point, I'm going to say it's a military visage. From Old French brigand, brigante, trooper, skirmisher, foot soldier. From brigare, to brawl, fight. See brigade, the sense of robber, freebooter, foot soldier, one who lives by pillaging. Is earlier in English, late 14th century, like I said, late 14th century, reflecting the lack of distinction between professional mercenary armies and armed organized criminals. So again, they're saying because of a lack of previous written history, they don't know how to differentiate between piracy and trade, and that was before the written record. Now we know the written record has lasted was before the 14th century, which is when this is written, and they're saying the same thing: lack of distinction between professional mercenary armies and armed or organized criminals. Probably then it was in the sense of skirmishers that the name brigand was given to certain light armed foot soldiers, frequently mentioned by Froissart and his contemporaries. The passage from the sense of light armored soldier to that of a man pillaging on his own account is easily understood. So, what we have today is a personage, and you're considered a belligerent combatant, a light armed soldier, and you're pillaging your own account because you don't know how to use it. Brigade, brigandage, see brigand or share brigand. Okay, the next one, parlay. When we get to pirates, and they want to act in a military fashion, and they decide to attack a ship, they have to put it to a vote. Or actually, as a ship, it's the captain's decision. But if they're actually going to go to war, like say multiple pirate ships and build a fleet, as in a military force, then they have to put things to a vote. And they in the Curse of the Black Pearl, if you look at that scene where Captain Teague, the keeper of the code, pulls out the code book, and they read the code to determine how they go forward in their decision making. And when you see Jack Sparrow put his finger on it and start reading it, the very last thing it says is or parlay. You can either go by the book as the code, or you can go by a parlay vote to do something different. And if you look at that scene, the parlay is expressed that it's never been successful in piracy, because when you vote, you're voting for somebody to make the final decision. Okay. And so in a parlay, when you look at that scene, you see that initially throughout history of time, and they stated in the movie that everybody just votes for themselves. So you end up with a no vote. So what's Jack Sparrow do? He lets it run its course just like it always has. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. And everybody votes for themselves. Everybody decides to pillage themselves and their own honor by not granting honor to somebody else in their vote. And at the end, it says he turns around and votes for Elizabeth Swann. Now, she already voted. She voted for herself just like everybody else. And then Jack Sparrow, the one with the keen mind, voted for Elizabeth Swann. So now he had no votes. Everybody else had one vote except Elizabeth Swann. So she got the majority vote. Age of majority and reason. And he had a reason to cast his vote for her. So let's look at this. Because when you go pillaging your own account, your own funds, you end up in prison. And then you end up having to get released on parole. Parlay. PARLAY, a term in a card game, faro, involving applying money won to a continuing bet. A continuing bet. Remember this one. And remember that I've said many times and showed etymology of promise and premise. Premise is a prior bet. Promise, promise, is a future bet, a continuation bet. Promise is the same thing as a parlay. Premise is not. It's a pre-bet. A continuation of something that was already bet. The premise was the prior bet. The promise is a continuation of that bet. From French parole, from Italian parole, Neapolitan parole, words, promises. Plural of parolo, see parole. Verbal meaning, exploit to advantage. So when you're pillaging your own account, you're exploiting your own account to your advantage, and it's working against you because they're holding it against you. You don't know how to operate it. You're operating it and don't realize that they're doing everything behind the scenes because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Parole. Word of honor. So when you go to prison and you go before the parole board and they ask you certain questions, what you're doing is you're making a promise. You're giving them your words. Word of honor. Promised by a prisoner of war not to escape if allowed to go about at liberty, or not to take up arms again if allowed to return home. This is an amnesty. From French parole, word, speech. In parole, d'honneur, word of honor. From Vulgar Latin, parola, speech, discourse. Not take arms again if allowed to return home. What did the prodigal son do? He quit the war and returned home. He quit the merchandising. He quit the business. He quit the personal shit that he ended up having to indenture himself into after he spendthrifted all of his estate. He pillaged his own account. He pillaged his own estate. From vulgar speech, discourse, comparison with son. With parlay, son. I'm your son, I promise. I give you my word. I return and stand in honor. From Greek parable, a comparison. I speak in parables. Are you catching on? Literally, a throwing beside, hence a juxtaposition. See Parable. Sense of conditional release of a prisoner before full term. Term, like I said, is a span of time. You guys catching on? Anybody want to come up and discuss this? If not, that's fine. The link is down there. Let me check chat, make sure it still appears. It should still be there. The Erie Canal. Is a parlay a plea agreement? Like I said, it's a promise. You're making a promise. You're not going to plea anything. You're going to give them the facts. I'm going to go home. I'm done fighting. I don't want to fight no more. So I want to remind everybody, hit that share, like, and subscribe button. You know what? I am so bad at this. I apologize. Just so you can see it. A term in a card game faro involving applying money won to a continuing bet. A continuing bet. So the premise is the pre-bet. The promise is the future bet. Mises. Mise. Etymology. Oops, wrong one. Hold on, folks. I'm almost there. Mise from dictionary.com. Thesaurus, a settlement or agreement. So it's a setting upon. The issue and proceeding instituted on a writ of right. First recorded in 1400 to 1500, or 1400 to 1450. Late Middle English from Anglo-French, a pudding. You put your bet down. You set your bet down. Setting down. From Latin mises, past participle of mater, to send, bestow. Okay. So we'll go back. Parlay. Parole, word of honor, promised by a prisoner of war not to escape if allowed to go about at liberty, or not to take up arms again if allowed to return home. Da-da-da-da. Parable. Okay, let's go to the next one. Parole. Parable. Allegorical. Now, when somebody tries to argue with me and tell me that the Bible is true word of God, and Jesus says in that scripture, it says Jesus says I speak in parables, it kind of confounds me why anybody can tell me that it's anything but allegorical. Okay. Or metaphorical narrative, usually having a moral for instruction. Saying or story in which something is expressed in terms of something else. Parable, parabolic, style in writing. Comparison, a comparison parable, literally a throwing beside, hence a juxtaposition from para, alongside. Throwing, casting, beam, ray. Does the sun cast beams? Related to balion, to throw. What's that? Yeet, to throw out, to throw, reach. Gwel is the Proto-Indo-European root meaning to throw, reach, with extended sense of to pierce. You want to pierce the corporate veil? Anabolic, arbalest, aspeline, ball. Dancing, party. Ballad, ballet, ballista. Tells us to sing and dance in the glory of God. And this is what it's talking about. Cannibalism, devil. See what this is? Diabolical, discobulous, emblem, embolism, hyperbole, hyperbola, hyperbole, kill, metabolism, palaver, parable, parabola, parlay, parliament, parlor, parole, problem, future, just as in promise, it's a future bet. Blemish, future blemish. Quail, lose heart, shrink, cower, where we get coward. It is the hypothetical source of evidence for its existence. It is provided by Sanskrit. Goria, swinging, balbality, whirls, twirls, to throw so as to hit. Also in a looser sense, to put, place, lay. A throw, beam, ray. Dart, javelin, balloon, needle, balazan, to dance. I torture, to sting, to pierce, end, pain. They're all related. Better learn how to coin your words, you purse your lips. The last one we're going to look at, folks, visa. Visa as a noun, 1831, official signature or endorsement on a passport. Now, why did we go to piracy, to brigand, to parlay, to parole? From French, visa, from modern Latin, charta visa, verified paper. Literally, paper that has been seen. From fem, past participle of Latin videre, to see. Wide. From pi root, wide. Proto-Indo-European, wide, to see. We're going to check this out. Does it sound like weird? If you put an ER in there, it'd be weird, right? What about word? They're all just changes. Earlier, vice, as in revise, review, revise, review, re-see, respectacle, respect. From French past participle of visor, to examine, view. The credit card of this name, Visa, was introduced in 1976, replacing Bank AmeriCard. From 1831, weed. It forms all or part of advice, advise, as in revise, advise, devise. Belvedere, clairvoyant. Deja vu, druid. Eidetic, eidolon. Envy, evident. Guide, guidon. Guise, as in a mask. Guy, small rope, chain, or wire. What is the chain of title? What is the chain of your legacy? Gwendolyn, Hayes, history. What is the history? What is your history? idea, ideo, idol, like ideology, idol, idol, improvisation, improvise. There's another vise. Interview, insidious, improvise. To sing or speak extempore. Unforeseen, not studied or prepared beforehand. Not foreseen, unexpected, not opposite of. Not an opposite of. Opposite of a future view. Opposite of a future view. Interview, invitus, kaleidoscope, oid. Penguin, polyester, provision, prevision, previse, provide, providence, prudent, purvey, purview, review, revise, rigveda, story, connected account or narration of something happening. In beginning was the word. Can't get any easier than that. Supervise, survey, twit, unwitting, vita, vide, view, visa. Your word is your visa. Visage. Visage. Vision. Visit. Your word is a introduction of yourself as an ambassador of God, saying that you wish to visit and view. Visor. Vista. Advisor. Advice. Yeah, all of it. Voyeur. Ooh, there's a one. Voyeur. You thought voyeur was so bad, huh? Wise. As an adjective, learned, sagacious, cunning. Where we also get wily, W-I-L-E. Where we also get guile, G-U-I-L-E. Where we also get guilty, G-U-I-L-T-Y. Learned, sagacious, cunning, wise, way of proceeding. The process that's due. Manner. Wisdom, wiseacre, wit, mental capacity. Are you competent? Can you wear the cap? Can you put the right cap on in any city you're in? To know. To know. White age mott. Witting. What? It is hypothetical source of evidence for its existence. Existence is provided by Sanskrit. Data. Watch this, folks. Almost every last one, the same thing. I know. I know. I know. To see. Vision. White. Clearly seen. Knowledge. White. To know. To see. To know. To see. I see. To see. To know. To see. Vest. News. Vedit. To know. Vest as in capacity. You guys catching on to this stuff? It's all wordplay. It's all a big word game. And when you figure out the roots and how to find them, it's going to tell you everything you know. So what's your problem? What's your future blemish? Do you know your future blemish? If you don't know your future blemish, then you don't have a problem. What you have is confusion. You're connected with something you shouldn't be. Like Paul says, it's about detachment. So anyway, let me like in chat real quick before we get out of here. I want to thank everybody. Casey, the Fallen Slays, us all. Eric Lieberman, Jack of Jack, Jack off Jack, Velvet Pin. Greetings. Appreciate everybody showing up. Make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And real quick, if you're on Hecklebus and you haven't subscribed to El Perro, go over and do so. And if you, and vice versa, if you're on El Perro, go over to Hecklebus and hit the subscribe button over there. I do have 3 other accounts, but I don't post anything on them yet. They're just for my own use for viewing other channels. But the alternate account is Hecklebus, and El Perro is the original account. So again, I want to thank everybody for joining today. I hope you got something out of this. Kylan, Citizen Science Oral Health Project, thanks again for showing up. And yes, time is of the essence. But remember, be patient. You get to define your word, and that's the important part. The words that you choose have to come from your heart, and you have to be very discretionary about those. You have to make sure you know the origins so that you know that you're using them properly, pro-person. Because everything you say, written or spoken, is known as a comment, and it's literally in its etymology an invention, fabrication, or fiction, because it's just a thought. It doesn't placate anything but a thought. And it's not until somebody actually acts on it that it shows what kind of power is behind it. So again, coin your words or purse your lips. In the meantime, you guys know the ending. I love you, and I don't care whether you love me back or not. Real quick here, Mark Jones just joined. Nile, you know what's funny, Wizard? In Pirates, every time they reference the rules, they say they're really just guidelines. Yes. Yes, it's a guideline. Like if you look at that scene, the Captain Teague scene in Curse of the Black Pearl, you'll see they get out the code book, and those codes, just like in the U.S. code, they have a lot of times they say and or. When you see those things, when you see and, it's a restriction, and when you see or, it's a choice. So it's a guideline. They're just guidelines. So think about this stuff. And remember, folks, if you learn this stuff, you learn how to bless yourself. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So learn the true word and be a priest unto that. Teach that to your kids. So God bless. Have a good day. See you again soon. I'm going to be back with corporations being able to vote here after a while.